Good morning and welcome to the Virginia SBDC's Google the Great webinar series. This webinar series is designed to give you an overview of how to actually use the powerful tools that Google's created and some practical tips from a small business perspective. Each webinar focuses on one Google product. If you missed any of our other webinars, you can find a recorded version of the webinar on the Virginia SBDC website. That's virginiasbdc.org under online training. All of our Google the Great webinars are presented by Sidney-Smith, a self-proclaimed Google-ologist and president of W3 Consulting, a digital business strategy firm that provides training on how to use various web-based technologies to small business. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type those questions into the question window and Ray will do his best to answer them. Without further ado, here is Sidney-Smith.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you to the Virginia SBDC Network for having me this morning. So today we're going to be talking about Google Spreadsheets and the Google Forms tool that's actually built as an overlay on top of Google Spreadsheets. So that everybody has sort of a context, this product is actually a couple of years old. It was built by a company called 2Web Technologies in 2005, and it was sort of matched and paired with a project that Google had created called Google Lab Spreadsheets in about 2006, and so they were married and put together. And here we have today basically an alternative to Microsoft Excel that sits right inside of your web browser. So instead of you going to Microsoft and purchasing a license to have Microsoft Office, which includes the Microsoft Excel product, you can go ahead and have a spreadsheet tool built right into a web browser, and you don't have to have any downloaded native software for it. So of course, Google Spreadsheets is a part of the entire umbrella product or suite called Google Docs, which will soon be called Google Drive completely. So Google Drive is a new product that Google has launched, and that product is a file storage tool, but it actually is going to house all of your Google Docs files. And so that means it will hold all of your Google Docs files, not just the ones that are native to Google Docs, the ones that Google Docs uses, whether that's documents, spreadsheets, forms, drawings, and what have you, and presentations. But any file that you put in there, as long as it's within the amount of storage that you have, Google Drive will hold it. And so Google Spreadsheets will now fit under the Google Drive brand that Google has created. So you'll be able to go to drive.google.com and or docs.google.com in order to be able to reach the Google Spreadsheets tool. Okay? So let me take you right into the tool, and we'll get started with the product. And I'm just going to show you around and show you what it's really capable of doing. It's a spreadsheet software, of course, so it's a tool built for you to be able to. Oh, I already had a thing open, but here we go. I'm just going to go in from your normal Google Docs or Google Drive page. You're going to be able to go ahead and drop down to Spreadsheet, okay? And when you click on Create and then Spreadsheet, you're going to open up a new workbook, okay? So a couple of things about a spreadsheet program, this type of application. One, you have cells, and cells are built within rows and columns. Okay, so the columns, of course, are the ones that are vertical, the ones that go from A, B, and C, and so on. So they go in order of A, B, C, and then they duplicate. So you can get to double A, double B, double C, and even going to triple C. Okay, so that goes vertically, those columns that go to the right. Going downward, you have rows, and those rows are numbered 1 to however many rows you go down to initially start with. Google gives you 100 rows, and then you can add in bulks of any particular set of numbers. So in this case, I can add 20 or 100 or 500 rows at any particular time to the end of my current number of rows. So if you take a specific column and row, you get yourself a cell. And so the one that I have selected right now is A1. If I go ahead and click in any other cell, whether that be, this one is D12, I can go ahead then and manipulate that specific cell. So this would be the case in any spreadsheet software. If I double-click in the software spreadsheet, I can go ahead and type directly into it if I were going to do a formula, okay, and we'll talk about formulas in a little while in terms of what it can do in terms of formulas. So here we have a specific cell within one column and one row. As well, you can go ahead and highlight just by clicking, holding, and dragging the cursor across any number of particular cells. So as you can see here, I'm just moving and waving the cursor around as I'm holding down the button. So the left cursor button. So I can go ahead and select any number of cells, and then from there I can cut, copy, and paste. Okay, so you can go ahead and move and manipulate data very, very quickly and easily as you're going through. So if I were doing some kind of expense report, or if I were doing some type of sales or marketing type report where I was trying to crunch numbers, I would be able to use and manipulate this information pretty quickly and easily. Each of these workbooks, when you go ahead and create something called Create Spreadsheet, here you're looking at an untitled spreadsheet, and we're just going to go ahead and create this, and we're going to call this Accounts Receivable, because we love accounts receivables, right? And so we're going to go ahead and name the document, and just do that by clicking on the untitled document name, as you saw me just do, and it will open up this screen to allow you to rename the spreadsheet. But we go ahead and rename it. And so what you've created here is actually what's called a workbook, okay? So even though you press a button that says Create and then Spreadsheet, you are actually opening up a document that's a workbook, meaning that it holds many spreadsheets. Now to start with, Google gives you one here, but we can go ahead and create many, many different spreadsheets within the same workbook. Okay, so understand that when I say workbook, I'm talking about all of the spreadsheets that encompasses one particular file, which you can sort of think of as a database. And then the specific spreadsheets are the ones that are the tabs along the bottom. In database speak, we would call those tables. Okay, so we have all of these options in terms of being able to expand this file. This can be literally the only workbook you ever create within Google Spreadsheets, very similar to Microsoft Excel. Most people don't realize this, but if you just create one spreadsheet, one workbook, I mean, you have this complete database that holds everything. So you could literally create one spreadsheet for your entire company and run all of the things that you need to do from that one spreadsheet. Now, most people, just for ease of sake and sharing purposes, create separate spreadsheets so that you can, of course, give access to this information to these people and this information to those people. And I'll show you some of the sharing capabilities as we move along in the morning. Okay? So here we are. I'm going in here, and I have an accounts receivables document, and we're really not going to create an accounts receivables report. I just named it for fun. But we're going to go ahead and rename the sheet. So we go ahead and decide that this is the accounts receivables form, and we want to create a particular spreadsheet, and this is going to be all of our clients. And so we have a specific spreadsheet that's just going to be our client names. All right. Across the top here, we're going to go ahead and So we're going to go ahead and create another sheet, and this is going to be our our timed report. So it's just going to be let's see, we're going to call this one Outstanding Invoices. Okay. So we've created two. Back on the clients tab, or the client's worksheet, we're going to go ahead in here, and I'm going to go ahead and create a column and side row that's what we call fixed. Okay, so we're going to freeze those frames. So you can see here we have this little rope that the horizontally slashed line, but I call them ropes. I don't know what they're actually technically called, but I'm going to go ahead and drop that down just below the first row, number 1, right? And so I'm going to just put in there contact name, company or organization, and you can go along, address 1, address 2, city, state, zip, and whatever it might be, phone, mobile, email. Okay, so I've just created a quick contact list here for my clients, and I can go ahead and put those in there in this particular accounts receivable workbook. Okay, so this worksheet is going to be dedicated to that. If I head over to my my outstanding invoices, I may want to create a left-bound column that stays. And just so that you know, what I just did by freezing this is that if I just literally start making a list of people, you can see I'm going ahead and moving down, so I get to cell 25, and you can see that as I'm creating new contacts, filling in different rows, even though I've gone past, the scroll bar keeps moving me down, but that particular fixed row 1 stays at the top, stays visible to me, so that I don't forget what column I'm working in. So if I go ahead and work in column D, and I'm down in the hundreds, I can still see that that's address line 2. Okay, so that's what that's it's all about. So we're going to do that, of course, with the left-hand bar, and you can see I just took the, before we jump back there, I just took the rope on the left-hand side and I just carried it to the left of the A column, all right, and I can go ahead and do that same thing with regard to the same thing I did on the client side. So that's capable of being done. On the left-hand side, when you create multiple worksheets, note that you can go ahead and click on this little button that says All Sheets when you hover above it, and hover on it, I mean, and you'll see that you can go ahead and jump to any specific spreadsheet from there. So as you can imagine, when I click on the plus sign and add many, many different spreadsheets, eventually you come up to a point where you can't see the names of all of the spreadsheets across the bottom. You can see I just created 20 some odd spreadsheets very quickly, and now I can go ahead and scroll through them by clicking on that All Sheets button. So it's a really, really great way to go get around the document without getting confused and whatnot. This also lends to the point that you should make sure you title and name your spreadsheet worksheets clearly, because this will help you as you move along. So you can go ahead and do that. And remember, if you start out now with just one spreadsheet, that is, you want to master Google Spreadsheets all as one tool, what I usually do is have all of my clients just create one workbook and work from that workbook. And then, of course, when you expand, if you want to be able to grow your business at some point and let other people use it, and some of the information is sensitive, like people's information and so forth, you can go ahead and copy specific worksheets out and create separate workbooks from them. So you can go ahead and do that. So you're not limited by the fact that you're using one spreadsheet's workbook right now, but then you can go ahead and create separate ones as the need applies. But I think it's simplest to have one, or as few as possible, in the Einsteinian corollary. All right? So there goes the idea of going ahead and creating fixed columns. And so you can fix columns, and actually you can go ahead and fix any number of columns. So if I go back up here and I needed 1 and 2 to go ahead and be fixed at the top, you can go ahead and do that. So you can fix one or many particular columns, freeze framing, as I think it's called. And so you can go ahead and do that. All right, so let's go over some of the other factors about all spreadsheet programs. Everything I'm showing you right now is pretty much what all spreadsheet programs can do, okay? So we want to go ahead and understand that each of these particular spreadsheet formats have particular kinds of data, all right? So this particular cell, A2, is right here, and you can see right in the once we select it, it shows up in this bar here. Google has titled it FX, which is basically a sign for a formula, and you can go ahead in here and start to manipulate the text within that specific cell because you have it selected. Now there's a couple ways to manipulate that. Like I just showed you earlier, you can double click on it and you can get into the field. If you click into any field even that has text on it, and you start typing, it will override whatever the text is in there. For purposes of just keeping errors down, I don't recommend you do that. Don't just go typing over data whenever you feel like it. It really, for purposes of controlling and keeping quality assurance alive, you should always select the cell and then go up to the formula bar so that you're working with the current material that you're dealing with. Mostly because if you're dealing with something that has a formula in the background, or something that may have formatting that's not what you understand it to be, the working in the formula cell will give you all of that information that you otherwise wouldn't get if you just started typing over another cell. So again, for quality assurance purposes, not to joke about the phone calls being recorded, but for quality assurance purposes, you should go ahead and click in the formula bar and work really from there. Okay? So I'm going to show you some formulas in a couple of minutes, and we'll talk about some of the features across the toolbar now. Okay? So let's go ahead and go through the toolbar, because I think it's always helpful. Again, all of these tools that actually fall across this toolbar appear within the File, Edit, View, Insert, Format, Data, Tools, Help areas. They just are put into icons so that you can quickly and easily access them, like the other products that we've talked about. I think we just did a Google Docs Documents webinar that's gone up on the website, and I've gone over some of those already, so you can go check those out. But here we'll just go through what these are. So starting under File, you have the ability to share. And so let's talk about sharing now. You can go ahead and click on Share here, or you can see right up here at the top there's the icon for sharing. So when you hover over the blue share button, it tells you how the file is currently being shared. And of course, if you just go to File, Share, it'll open up the same window. Okay, but if you just hover over the share blue button, the blue share button, it will go ahead and give you a quick view of who has access to what. If it's only you, then it'll say only you can access this. If it says that there's multiple people associated, then it'll tell you that. So we click on Share, and it opens up the same Google Docs, or now going to be Google Drive sharing settings. Okay, and under the sharing settings, it gives you a couple of different options. One is that it gives you the link to share this particular file. Now, when you have it in a private setting, like I do right now, this link will only work for me. If I were to send this along to a client or publish this on the web, if anyone were to attempt to try and visit this page, it would just be blocked. Google would tell you that this is a locked file and that you can't access it. The other is that a person must have a Google Docs account, a Google account in some way, shape, or form to log in if you give them some kind of limited access rights to this document, okay? As well, if the person intends on editing it, they will have to have a Google Docs account. Other than that, if you make the document public for just viewing purposes, then no one needs a Google account. They can literally just open it and view the document without that. So I know that a lot of people are concerned about publishing a spreadsheet or any Google Doc for clients to be able to see. There will not be a need for a Google account unless they want to manipulate that document in some way, shape, or form. Of course, it behooves Google to make people, to coax them to create user accounts. So they're going to want people to create user accounts, but it's not required when you're just publishing it to the world at large. It's when you start to create granular administrative level controls that it then starts to step in and say, no, this person needs to be logged in because of X or Y, okay? So they give us a link to share, and again, like it says right there on the screen, it says only accessible by collaborators. Once we go down a bit, once we change our options, Google has now added these 4 buttons in here which allow us to go ahead and share something directly via email. We can go ahead and share this by Google+, Facebook, and Twitter natively from the Google Docs or Google Drive application sharing settings now, which is really cool. Okay, so you'll see them light up when I make a change to this. So right now it shows who has access, and of course it shows me as the owner. It says Ray is owner, right? And then above that, it gives me the ability to go ahead and change the privacy of this particular file. When we click on the visibility options, like in past webinars, same options. Public on the web, which basically publishes this so that I can allow anyone to go ahead and view this with no sign-in required, okay? I can also click on this checkbox below that says allow anyone to edit, also with no sign-in required, okay? So now I can push this document out to the world, and specifically within Spreadsheets. This is not necessarily in all of the Google Drive products now, but specifically in Spreadsheets, you can allow people to edit the document without having them sign in. So again, it gives you that additional level of control. Of course, then you don't know who is actually making edits to the document, and so that's a level of control I think you as a small business owner should really pay attention to and want for purposes of logging what people are doing and changing as it relates to your data, okay? So you have that option. You can go ahead and click on the next one down, which basically says anyone with a link, okay? And again, this requires someone to, this does not require someone to have a sign-in. You know, they don't have to sign in order to log in order to be able to view it. But this basically doesn't publish this on the web in the same way that the public on the web does. So public on the web will get indexed by Google and the other search engines based on its keyword indexing. This particular link does what's called no-follow to the web server, the web search engines. So it won't be indexed on the web in the same way. However, there are lots of exceptions to that, and it may show up in the search engines. So don't think that just because it says anyone with a link that it's not going to show up in the search engines. It's just that Google will go out there and send that request to the search engines not to index this. So it's basically telling folks that, you know, when you put up the flag on your mailbox and you let the mail, you know, carrier know that you have mail to be picked up, this is sort of the opposite of that. You put up your flag to basically tell them not to index this page. So they don't have to, one, they don't have to comply. You know, there's no federal law stopping them from complying, you have something published on the web. And the other is that certain search engines have policies. For instance, Google has a policy that if you link to anything outside of your own page, that is, if you link to anything outside of the spreadsheet that you've published, okay, so you decide to publish this spreadsheet on the web, you have this link and you want to share that with other people, but you don't want Google and Yahoo and Bing and AOL and Ask.com to go ahead, and the many other search engines, to go ahead and index it. You use this anyone with a link. But somewhere in the spreadsheet you've decided to link to your website. Well, that's an outbound link from this particular page. Because of that particular link, most of the search engines have a policy that says if there's a link in this document and it's published on the web, we will index it, which means that they're going to put it out on the web in their search engine results pages. So be aware of the fact that if you have certain types of criteria, it will still get indexed. But for the most part, Google does try to have people comply with the no-follow tagging by only using the anyone with link selection here. Okay, so anyone with a link is an option. And then, of course, private, which is where we started, and that basically means only people that you give express rights to access that file will be able to do so. They will have to log in, of course, to be able to do that. If you have more questions or anything else about that, if you click on this Learn More About Visibility, it will take you over to the Google Docs Help section and the support area, the Google support area. And under Google Docs, there's a huge Google Docs Help section, and that support area will answer many of your questions regarding visibility. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and leave this as private. I'm going to go ahead and say that I want to invite myself to this particular file. So I go ahead and type in my email address, and I give myself the specific level of rights. So maybe I only want this particular user to be able to view the documents. In this case, I want myself to be able to edit, so I click Can Edit. And you can see underneath that the email box, which you can click on Choose from Contacts. It will open up a window, and you can choose from the contacts already in your Google Contacts account. And then you can also type them in manually, as I just did. And so below that, there's a checkbox. That checkbox basically allows me to go ahead and click Notify, and the notification will shoot an email to the person I've given access to that says, hey, Ray wants you to go ahead and access this spreadsheet. Go ahead and click on it. You'll be able to log in and access that file. As well, you can go ahead and create a message to be included with this particular item. And so if you, for some reason, here, let's make this a little bigger. So you can see here we can go ahead and click in there. It gives you an optional text field to go ahead and add a message, and I can say, hey, I wanted to share this spreadsheet with you. All right, and so that message will be included along with that particular link. Another option is, of course, to have that same email that's sent to the new user, the new access user, an email to yourself, basically blind copying you on that message, so you have it in your inbox as well. Because this is not an email system that has a sent folder. So if you send this and you don't know what happened, you can actually go back to your own inbox, find where you've archived it, pull up that email, and re-forward that to the person. So I find that it's really helpful to send a copy to myself and then save that email, at least for the temporary purpose, that if the person says, oh, I didn't get it, and you wrote a fairly substantive message in this optional area, maybe it had information about a username and password or other types of sensitive information that you wanted to share with that person, and you don't have that at the hand, at the ready to be able to pass along to that person, it'll be more trouble to do that than just to have clicked to send a copy to yourself and know that it's sitting in a folder waiting so that you can re-forward that to the person. So it can be helpful, to be able to send it to yourself. So you can go ahead and do that. You click on Share and Save, and then poof, it often runs to that particular person. You can see that person's now added to the sharing settings and their level of sharing. Now, at any time, you can go ahead and change what their sharing settings are. So you can change them to just a view only, or you can make them an owner of the file, of the specific file that you're working on, and so on and so forth. If you have specific groups of people, you can go ahead and add groups, and that's a more complicated conversation for Google Contacts, but you can do that as well. All right, so that's the sharing settings. If anyone has any questions, I wanted to show you also what happens once we change the settings from anything other than private. But if we change the settings to anything other than private, you can see how those grayed out icons for the sharing links all of a sudden change, and so they become full color. And at that point, you can go ahead and click on those, and those will generate the various posts or email that are necessary for you to be able to send those out via those means. Okay. So if I clicked on Facebook, it would launch a Facebook posting option, and I could go ahead and send that as a Facebook post, Facebook page post, basically pushing that out to your brand timeline. You can send that via Twitter as a tweet. You can send that to Google Plus as a Google Plus post, and then you can also send that via email through Gmail. Okay, so really, really great option if this document is something that you'd like to share with more people than just private folks. Okay, so we're going to get cancel, click done. All right, so we're back to the spreadsheet itself, and so we've gone to File and Share, and those are the sharing settings. And now down to the rest of the basic settings that you would find in any other Office, Microsoft Office or Google Docs settings, pretty much any productivity suite like this. But you have New. You can choose New to create one of the various forms, or you can even go ahead and find a template. I'm going to just quickly show you the template because this is something that I've talked about in the Google to Great seminars if you've attended them. And Google has this really great accounting template. I can't remember the particular person who created it, but it's just a very simple bookkeeping and accounting system template, and it's in here somewhere. But you can see that there's all sorts of options for accounting, and you can basically run all sorts of templates from the system. So that is apply templates from the system to your own spreadsheet. So if you decided that you like this particular accounting spreadsheet, it's got colors, you can actually preview them and see what they look like in a live setting. You can go ahead and browse and see what the particular features are that you need. And if you want it, you can go ahead and click on the Use template, and it will immediately apply that template to your spreadsheet, the workbook that you're working in, which is really great. So you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and close this particular window, and then we're going to continue down. But you can see all of the various options. So if you have a specific need when it comes to calculating VAT or any other types of tax, local or international tax. So if you needed to figure out the VAT codes or those types of things, you can go ahead right into one of these templates and quickly figure that out. So very, very useful to use the templates for that. And again, this is available in all of the different types of Google Docs. So documents, spreadsheets, presentations, forms, and drawings. So by all means, jump in and look for the various templates. Okay, so definitely go ahead and look at.
Ray, we have a question. Can more than one person be an owner of a file?
No. So here you can see if we click on sharing settings, you see it says here that I'm the owner. If I click on is owner, you can see that it automatically swapped us. So the other person is no longer the owner. They just have the highest level of settings to edit, but I will become the owner. The other person will become the owner as soon as you switch. Only one owner. Okay, so that's the template. So using a template, you can go ahead and jump into there. And when we talk about forms, I will talk about the templates again because there's some really great forms in there. If I wanted to go ahead and open a specific spreadsheet, you can see the spreadsheets that I have in my current Google Docs account, and I can go ahead and choose one of those. The other great option is I can also choose a file from my local desktop and upload it into the spreadsheet from my desktop. So if I had an Excel file, if I had an ODS, which is the openoffice.org format, which is the open suite built in conjunction with Sun Microsystems and so forth, openoffice.org files are allowed. You can take CSV, .text, and other kinds of tab delimited and comma delimited files. Okay, so you can go ahead and pull those right into the spreadsheet. So if you had an email marketing list and you wanted to be able to sort of re-manifest them and resort them in some way, shape, or form, you could go ahead and do that using the import function and pulling it right into one of the spreadsheets of your workbook. Okay, so really, really powerful tool there to use Open. You can, of course, rename, but you can just click on the icon here to rename. We can import particular items, so you can import a spreadsheet, which is different than just opening it. Opening it allows you to go ahead and edit and so on and so forth. It will ask you whether you want to import it at that point, but that's a little bit different. And you can, of course, make copies of things. so you can make a copy of a particular spreadsheet and move it to something else. So if you have sort of a repetitive spreadsheet that you have to create, a workbook that you have to create, you can go ahead and just create a master workbook and then just keep making copies of them. So that's a really, really powerful tool to make copies of things. You can see revision history, so you can see all of the various revisions that I've made over the course of the last couple of minutes, and then we can even go beyond that and see more detailed options. So you can see I can show even more details going back to its origin, okay? And at each point, I can click on particular items and say if we go back to the very beginning of the creation of the document, when I click on that particular revision or version of it, you can see that it shows where it was. That is, it doesn't have any data, and then you can keep clicking on it until you see the versions that have data, and so on and so forth. So if someone accidentally deletes something, if somebody overrides something, you can go ahead and go back to a specific version that you want to keep and pull that one up and restore it to that point. Okay. You have specific spreadsheet settings, and those are really just dependent upon locale, what country you're in, as well as the time zone you're in. So in your case, these are natively pulled from your Google Docs account and Docs settings, so you're pretty much good. But if you need to change the language, you can go ahead and do that from the settings. You can download all of these workbooks in all of the formats that it can pull into, and additionally, you can actually download this spreadsheet as a web page. So many times you want to be able to create a table for the web, and this will allow you to be able to do that. Now, it's not going to be the most search engine optimized web page that it creates, by the way, but it will be a web page that you can go ahead and immediately upload to your website. So if you have to create a complex spreadsheet or workbook for you to have to display to your clients or to your potential audience, you can go ahead and do that right by going into Google Docs, creating all the various options that you want to, and then just clicking the download as web page, and it will download an HTML file, and you can literally just upload that to your own website. So really, really powerful to create web pages and so on and so forth. You can download it in a PDF, which is also the other option that you can't do when you import. You can't import a PDF into into a Google Spreadsheets file, but you can download these spreadsheets into a PDF. So it'll just create a new page for every sheet in the workbook. So that's really fun. You can publish this to the web, and this is actually sort of the same function that you have underneath Share. So they just opened it up so that you have the option to publish on the web, but when you get taken there, all of this is giving you the granular options of which specific pages that you want to be able to publish on the web. Okay? So the Share options when you publish on the web is just how visible it is, and then this, of course, lets you go ahead and publish specific ones. One of the cool options is that you can automatically republish this page when changes are made, meaning that if you do publish it on the web, you can say, if I update these cells, I want you to update that page so that future revisions show that. If you don't want to do that, you just want to show the base of where it started, but you want to make edits in the background, you can go ahead and click on the checkbox to turn off the automatic republishing of that document, and it will only show the document at its static point in the past when you started publishing. Okay, so that can be really cool. Going down, we have the email collaborators, which means you can just literally send an email to everyone who's currently a collaborator on that particular file, so that you can do that. But I'm gonna show you something else that's a little bit more powerful, which is the commenting in a couple of minutes. So I don't really recommend doing this unless you really have to send an email. But for the most part, you want to use the commenting functions that's built into Google Docs. Email as attachment. So this is if you wanted to email the entire workbook to someone else without printing and mailing it to them or what have you. You want to be able to just send this document to someone, and you have the option of sending them an Excel file, an OpenOffice spreadsheet, the .ods file, or a PDF. So you can go ahead and generate a PDF, put in the two line, you know who you're sending it to via email, a subject, a message. You can send a copy to yourself and click send, and off it runs as an attachment. You didn't have to do anything else. Okay? It's going to send from the email address that your account is logged into. So remember that. If you're using a Gmail account, it will send that from your Gmail and expose that Gmail account to your client. If you are using Google Apps, then you're using Google Drive and Google Docs underneath the Google Apps account, and it will send it as your business name, meaning your name at yourbusinessname.com. Okay, so I really recommend people look into Google Apps if you're going to be using Google Docs, because it gives you, one, a lot more memory, a lot more storage space, and it gives you that brand perception. It gives you a stronger brand perception by using your own brand as opposed to Google's brand when you're using these tools. Okay, so that's the email as an attachment, and a very powerful tool. I love using it. It's a great tool for those types of things. And then, of course, you have the option of printing. So you can go ahead and print these documents however you'd like to within the system. Okay. Underneath here, we have just all the various and basic options, but I just want to go over the deletion tools. Under Edit, you have the option of deleting 3 different kinds of data whenever you select a cell. You can delete just the values within a cell, meaning that you can delete the contents of that cell. And the contents of that cell, meaning just what's been outputted, not formatting and not other types of data that's been associated with that particular cell. You can also delete the row that you've selected based on the cell that you're in, and you can delete the column that you're in. Okay, so you have those deletion functions, and you can see when I click on that I want to delete row 3, the row actually disappears, and now there's a new row 3. You couldn't see the change because they all have the same data. But if I clicked in here, I'm going to go up in 1, and click up here and put 2, click up here and put 3, and now if I go to row 4, go to Edit, and then delete row 4, you can see that now ASDF1 and ASDF3 are now the ones that are left. It basically deletes that entire row and consolidates the lines for the spreadsheet. So just know that those are really helpful. Okay. Under View, also lots of the same kinds of views that you would see in any spreadsheet software, but you can go ahead and click on Freeze Rows, and Freeze Rows is what I showed you when you pull down these ropes. So pull down or pull to the side these particular ropes on the top left-hand side. Okay, so those are really powerful. You can show grid lines or not, so you can see that I've turned off the grid lines, and now it's just showing me the white space, and there's nothing that's showing the boundaries between the cells. So maybe if you don't want to see those, you can turn those off. You can, of course, create protected ranges, which means that certain cells cannot be changed. You can go ahead and lock them from being changed. The formula bar is the bar right up here at the top that I showed you, and I would recommend leaving that up there because it's just so helpful. And you can go ahead and use compact controls and full screen view. I've showed these in past webinars, so you can go ahead back and look at them, but basically compact controls move some of the controls off the screen, and then full screen view takes us into just a full view of the spreadsheet with just the cells. So if you need the real estate to view a particular spreadsheet, you can get rid of all of the clutter at the top of the screen. You can insert rows above and below, columns left and to the right by using these insert functions. You can create a new sheet from this, and we'll put a new sheet to the left of whatever sheet you're in. So when you click on, I'm sorry, it'll move it to the right. It'll insert a sheet to the right of the sheet you were on. And then what I was talking about earlier, which is commenting. So instead of emailing collaborators and generating that email, this little tool here is called Comment, and you basically go to Insert and then Comment. You can sit on any specific cell and start to comment on that particular cell. So if we go back to our client sheet and say client number 6 here, we want to go ahead and write a comment. I can go ahead to Insert, Comment, and I can write a comment about this particular client. And it can be a very substantive comment, as you can see, all right? And so now when I click out of this particular file, you can see that there's a little orange color a little triangle that's been dog-eared on that particular cell. When I hover over it, it's going to show me the comment for that particular cell. And now I can read that. If I were someone who needed that information, I could do that. What I like to do with those comments is basically, as I make my way through any particular spreadsheet, I'll comment on things that I want other people to know as additional information that isn't actually part of the equation or part of the actual values placed into that particular cell. So if I want to provide commentary, it's a comment after all, I can go ahead and do that. All right, so that's Insert, and then you can go ahead down and do functions, and those functions are formulas based on particular cell options, okay? Cell values, I mean. So here, if I wanted to create a function, these give us these in the shortest list, but if you click on more, it will take you out to a whole expanded list of all sorts of mathematical equations. So if you do anything that associates with math or lots of calculations, you can do some really, really fantastic and fun kinds of mathematical number crunching. Okay, so don't think that you're limited by this. It also allows you to calculate dates and do all sorts of mathematical date equations as well. So if you want something to happen, based on a particular date or time, you can pretty much force the system through these formulas, through these functions to be able to do so. But I'm just going to show you a very simple one, which is that I want to take, a particular client's, number. Let's say their number here is 1,234, and I want to add the client underneath that, who's 4321, 4,321, and I want to create a total for that. I can go over to some new column, and I'll call this total. And in that cell, I'm going to go ahead and click in the function bar, and I can go and go to Insert and type in Function, type in Sum, which is a summary, an addition function. And now I can select the cells that I want to go ahead and be added to each other. Okay? And so if I just click on Enter now, you can see that what it did was it automatically added those particular cells. Now, I'm not limited by the fact that these two cells are contiguous. I can click any number of cells. So if I take a 4 there and a 5 there and a much larger number there, I can go ahead back into this cell and I can add by holding down the Control key. I can go ahead on the it'll be on a Windows machine. It would be a Control key. Oh, maybe not. Well, I don't know what the manifestation is on the Mac, but here we are. So I'm just going to type them in. I can go ahead and type in C6 as well because I want C6. In this particular case, I want this file, which is C14. I can click in here and add E25, or I can also add the F13. Okay. So if I just go ahead in here and just keep typing commas and adding the particular items, I can continue to add these cells. So F13 as well, and that was C14. So C14, and you can see there, then it just adds them all together. And so you can take disconnected numbers and add them together. You can also subtract, multiply, divide, all of that fun stuff, all from within this. So if I wanted to take those 5 cells that I've created a summary of, I can also go ahead in there and multiply that by some particular number. Maybe I want to know what the tax basis is for that particular number. I can say it's going to be a 25% tax overall. So now I know that's 0.25% of the numbers that are added in that particular area. So you can get very fancy with the numbers and very complex with the numbers, and they can do all of that work for you live. So whenever I change the numbers, say I wanted to change this one quickly, you can see that number automatically updates right within the file. You can do this kind of updating between sheets as well. So I can literally copy this formula and move it to another sheet. So I just clicked Control-C, or I copied the cell. And you can see here that when I paste it in there, it goes ahead and puts that formula into that particular cell. So now I have it as a base for me to be able to use from there. There's also some advanced functionality where you can actually take that same formula and move it over so that it pulls the same data. So I can say I want this particular sheet, and I'm not going to have time today to go over this, but I can say this sheet, if you look in the help section, it actually goes over this. It'll tell me that I want to take this cell, I2, I want to take I2's data and take it over to sheet 25, and I want to place it into this particular cell. And so now I can go ahead and say, the client sheet I2 is going to put this data in here, and then I can manipulate that data further, right from one spreadsheet to another, which is why I said to you at the beginning that you don't pretty much need anything more than one workbook, because you can move the data from each of these spreadsheets as you move along. So you can actually have data flow from one spreadsheet to the other and back. So pretty powerful when it comes to that. Okay. You can also insert charts and gadgets and images, forms, drawings, and scripts. I'm going to go over forms in about 2 minutes. so you can see what that's all about. And but the other ones are pretty simple. You can insert all of these various different types of manipulations of the data that's sitting within that spreadsheet. So if you wanted to create a pie chart, you can go ahead and click on Chart and create a pie chart based on the data that's in your spreadsheet or in your workbook itself. You can add in some drawings, and you can do some in the Windows Microsoft world. We know about Visual Basic VB scripting. Well, Google has created their own scripting language so that you're capable of going ahead and doing some advanced functionalities of the data that you have sitting in there that would be different than just a normal formula inside one cell. You can basically force it to do other things outside of the system by doing that type of scripting. So that's the insert function. Play around with them. They're really, really great functions, and ask me if you have any questions. Okay, going down we have format, and again, that's all just regular old formatting. So you can bold, italics, change font sizes, and all that stuff, all that fun stuff. The really cool thing about spreadsheets is you can have conditional formatting. So you can say if this, then that, and that means that if a particular file has a word or some kind of value, you can go ahead and make that number red or blue or green or whatever it might be. So if your final line in your accounts receivable is a very large number, it goes over $10,000 for instance, you may want to turn that red so it indicates to you that you need to talk to your accountant and your bookkeeper about really getting that money in the door. If the number goes under 5,000, maybe you want to go ahead and do the same because you're not billing enough. But maybe if it goes between $5,001 and $9,999, it stays in the green, and that means you're right on target for your monthly, weekly, or whatever it is, sales goals. Okay, so you can just sort of think about that in that regard. But you can go ahead and say pretty much anything. The value or the date or the number is X, then this particular conditional formatting applies. So we can make that the background of the cell yellow. We can turn all sorts of really interesting things to visually cue you that something's different about this particular cell. And you can create many, many rules. So you can add as many rules as you like for the conditional formatting. I really use the conditional formatting a lot so that I can really see visually what's happening and how things are changing every time I open up a particular item. So that's formatting. Data is really just all about sorting. I wouldn't get into any of the pivot tables or data validation until you get pretty sophisticated with this. Under Tools, we're going to go over Forms right now, and the Script Gallery, Manager, and Editor are in here. I suggest you check those out after you're very familiar with spreadsheets and the tool as a whole. It can do spelling checking, and it can also do formulaic or function solving, so that if you are having a problem creating a function or formula, it can go ahead and fix those. And then finally, before we go on to creating a form, and then I'll answer your question, Tracy, you can go into notification rules. And notification rules tells you that if anything changes in that particular spreadsheet, it shoots you an email. So say you share this document with your bookkeeper, you can say, I want to be able to add things to my general journal, in this particular spreadsheet, worksheet. But if something changes in the workbook on the, on another particular chart of accounts, for instance, you can say anything on the chart of accounts or on the client section, send me an email right away. Okay, and so you can have an email sent directly to you based on the change of that document, which can be really, really powerful. And actually, this is what you want to do with the forms, so that if a user does submit a form, you can go ahead and click that, and we'll go ahead and shoot that out to you, and we'll go over forms now. Tracy, do you have a question?
I was going to ask the 3 questions that related to Excel proper before we went into forms.
Okay, great. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. If you upload an Excel file, will the macros run correctly?
No.
Okay.
That's the easy answer.
Can anyone?
I would try it, but no, it most likely won't. It most likely won't.
Can anyone with access change who's the owner of the file?
No. So only the current owner can change the owner of the Google Docs file. That's across the entire Google Docs world, the Google Drive world.
Okay. And then finally, the last one was, can multiple individuals do changes to the spreadsheet at the same time?
Absolutely. So to give you an idea about that, as any one of you that have ever met me has probably heard, I'm a huge fan of Twitter, and I tweet a lot, and so I have I frequently pay attention to these things called Twitter chats. Here goes a schedule that's created by this gentleman. I don't even know him other than through Twitter, but here goes a live Google Doc that he's created. It's the Twitter chat schedule, and as you can see here, there are 16 other people, that I don't know, who are currently using this particular sheet, okay, this spreadsheet, okay? And here they are in there, and we can all basically be live editing this at the same time. Now, if for some reason they were making an edit to this particular document, actually, if I can scroll down through, there are really just so many chats in here. You can actually see them changing the data live. If someone was changing something in here, you could literally see them changing the data live. And I could be changing something in another cell live. You just can't change data in the same cell at the same moment, okay? Which makes sense, right? But you can see here, all of these particular cells are available. And so this person is working. You see when I hover over this, it shows me the user. This is basically the person working on this particular. This is where their cursor is right now. They've selected this cell, and they are looking at this particular cell. Okay, so you can see where these people are. So anonymous user number 335. I'm guessing that's 335 something. No, 335. This user is working on this small biz chat cell. Okay, so you can actually see where their cursor is, where they selected a cell, and you can see them actually live edit it. If they make an edit to the document, you can see that live. And then, of course, you can also chat. So I can literally type a message into this bottom right-hand corner and start chatting with all of the users who are currently looking at that particular spreadsheet. All right, so you have a lot of options in terms of being able to live collaborate with someone and multi-author a spreadsheet, a Google Docs document, drawing, PowerPoint presentation, a presentation of Google presentations, or otherwise. Okay, so you can do that all live. So I hope that answers the question. And then we're going to go back over. Any other questions, Tracy?
No, Ray, we're good.
Okay, great. So we're going to go into forms. Forms is actually brilliantly simple. You just open up a spreadsheet, you create a spreadsheet, or from the main Google Docs screen. If you're back at Google Docs, oops, wrong screen here. If I go back to just my home within Google Docs, I can go ahead and create and then form. All right. When you do this, Google will automatically create a spreadsheet as the supporting repository for your form, okay? So it has to have a place for data to go. So if you click on that here, it will automatically say, oh, okay, here goes your form. You can start live editing your form, and then it will pull the data into your spreadsheet, okay? So let's go back to accounts receivable. We want to just create a simple form. So I go to Tools, and then I click on Create a Form. And you can see that it automatically pulls up this lovely interface for me to be able to go ahead and create forms. I don't want to get into the specifics of the tool because it is really brilliantly simple. If you have questions about this, feel free to go ahead and message me on Google Plus or elsewhere. Really, no, actually, just stick to Google Plus. It'll be easier for me to manage all of the questions if you just go ahead onto Google Plus and ask me those questions. But you can add any number of types of questions, from multi-choice questions to grid-based and scale-based questions. You can create surveys and other types of contact form questions, and you can do that all from within this form screen. So you can create a different name for this form, but if this workbook that you've created needs the same name, then you can do that. And you can give information to people about what this particular form is. You can ask different questions and give some help text associated with those questions and change the types of questions that you have. They always give you these two sample questions, and of course you can delete these questions. You can go ahead and copy them from the center button, and then of course you can edit a specific question by clicking on the little pencil sign, which is the universal sign right now for editing. Okay, so you can go ahead and edit those. And you just keep editing new ones. You can create new pages, and yeah, you can also create different themes so that you can change the look of particular questionnaires or forms or contact forms. And when we leave this particular creation of the form, when a new form is created, you can see that it adds it to the spreadsheet, the worksheet that we are sitting on. So because I was sitting on spreadsheet 25, it actually went ahead and pulled in the forms, the forms fields that were in there. A timestamp is going to automatically be created, so every time someone completes the form, it'll put in a timestamp of date and time that they completed it, and then the sample question 1 and sample question 1 that I created just quickly right there, the sample question 1 and 2 actually, it will create a column for the answers, and it will place the answers, the values, in those cells associated with each of those individual users' responses. Okay? So if you wanted the form in a specific workbook, just make sure that you start and create the form on the spreadsheet, the worksheet within Google Spreadsheets that you want to use. Okay? So that's how it works. You can see now that once we've used the tools function and created the form, now the create form goes away, and you have the form option on that spreadsheet, and you can go ahead and edit, send the form, all the same options as when we were in sharing. You can share that form the same way you can share the Google spreadsheet itself. You can embed the form in a web page. So if you wanted to create a contact form, you could literally create the form here within Spreadsheets and then throw the form into your website. You can show a summary of responses, which is not very good, so don't try and depend upon it, but it gives you a summary of responses depending upon the data that you're dealing with. And you can also delete that form. So if that form was only supposed to be a temporary option for you to be able to get specific data, you could go ahead and create it and then delete it after you're done. If you don't want to create it, but you want to create it, stop accepting people's submissions, you can go ahead and uncheck the accepting submissions, and now no one will be able to access submission of the form anymore. They'll see the questions, but they won't actually be able to answer it. Okay, so that's forms, and I wanted to take you back over to the template gallery, because the forms template gallery has some really, oops, where was the, let's go over to the template gallery so that I can show you the options in terms of different forms that can be created, because some of them are really, really good. So Google Docs template gallery. And again, like I said, they're sort of in transition as it relates to what Google Docs is going to be now called, which is Google Drive. But just understand that you'll hear everyone sort of talking about both of them as one and the same. But Google Docs are really the products, and Google Drive is the file storage. But Google Drive will take over Google Docs. So Google Docs is now a subproduct of the Google Drive tools. So when we go to the main Google Docs template gallery, you can see here that we have types. And so I'm just going to click on Forms. And you can see here that it gives me a whole series of types of forms. Now it gives me also under Forms categories. So I can choose Forms and then, of course, Business. And it will show me, business forms. And so here you can see that I have all sorts of things that I want to be able to do. Some of them are not as useful as others, but here goes someone copied entry forms and sort of other stuff. Let's see, what are some good ones? If someone wanted to create an appointment, you can go ahead and use this appointment item as a base template for your contact form. But you basically just type in what you want, and it will go ahead and expose that particular one for you. So if I wanted a contact form, I can go ahead and click on Contact Form. I'm typing Contact Form and click Search, and you can see here that I wanted the Googler Contact Form. I'm going to go ahead and click on Preview. And here goes a very simple contact form, and now I can use this as a base template for my Google form, my Google Docs form. So I don't have to really start from scratch. So really start from the template, see what's out there, and then basically copy that and use that template for your purposes as you move along through it. So check out the Google Docs template gallery, see if there's something that you like. So if you're trying to do an annual survey, or if you're trying to do a contact form, jump in here, type in what you'd like, and then go ahead and do that. I know some clients use it for logging payroll hours, and some folks use it for logging their customer service requests and things of that nature. So all sorts of options when it comes to using that. And that brings me sort of to the overview of the product itself, Google Docs, Spreadsheets, and Google Forms. And I just wanted to briefly talk about Google Forms, not really get into it specifically, but I hope that gives everyone sort of a taste of what it can do. And with that, Tracy, if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Sure. The question is, if I was going to use the form as a survey, would people responding be required to have a Google account?
No, no.
Great.
No Google account is required unless they were actually going to edit the form. But if they were just submitting it, anyone in a web browser can access the form and submit.
And you must have a plant out in the audience today, because the question is, when is your book going to be available?
Oh my. Okay, so the book is called Google Your Small Business, and it's all about using these many Google products to help your small business, right? So you can pretty much start and run a business using all Google products. Not that I'm suggesting that by purpose of the book, but I certainly think that if you're a startup and you want to be able to run a streamlined business, you can do that. I believe it comes out in December, but don't hold me to it. I'm still dealing with some final details. But I think sometime in December, I want some wonderful people, including Tracy, to read the book beforehand, and then we will make some edits, and then it will go to publishing. So sometime in December, look out for some communications from us about that. And thank you to whomever that was.
Great. There don't seem to be any questions, and it's 11:15, so I'm going to go ahead and close up. Thanks, everyone, for participating today. Today's webinar was recorded, and it'll be posted on the Virginia SBDC website. Tomorrow you'll be receiving a follow-up email on the webinar, and there'll be an evaluation link in the email. I've also put that in the chat window if you want to fill it out now. Please help us to continue to improve our training by taking the time to complete the evaluation. And our next webinar will be it's Google Docs presentations, and it'll be on September 27th. Thanks, everyone, for participating today, and hope to see you on the 27th.